the regular meeting of the South Range Local Board of Education for November 2017.
John Coons. Here. Dale Murray. Here. Amy White.
Here.
Ralph Wentz. Here. And Corey Ogle. Here.
Okay, the first order of business is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the October 16th board meeting?
So moved.
Corey moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Now, Mr. Phillips, if you'd like to give us the financial interim report.
Future board members, I thought I had one of them right there, Mrs. Lally. Copy of these. I'm going to do a presentation, a quick one for the board. They received by email in their packets. And I'm going to use Mr. Donovan's computer, which may or may not be a good thing. I'll see it. How do I get to the folder this was in? Well, I'm going to be in and out of all this. Okay, we've had, over the last year or so, Mr. Franchek, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Christian, I'm sorry, and others that have wanted to know about having a performance audit here. So I did a little bit of research to show what's likely to happen. You know, it does cost $30,000 plus to do a performance audit unless you do everything they suggest, which we may or may not do. The only exception to that is if you're in fiscal emergency, the state orders it for you and they just have to do it. They pay for it for you because you're in fiscal emergency. That's not the case with South Range yet. We did, just today, late this afternoon, get a letter that we're in danger of fiscal caution, that we need to tell them what our plan's going to be for the deficit that's showing up in fiscal year 20. But at any rate, what I want to do is show, first of all, what an audit looks like. I'm all right. Thank you. Is this showing up on? Is this showing up okay? I can't see.
What you have is send
This is Austin Towns. And basically, as you scroll down through this, theirs is 46 pages long, but the only reason I'm showing you this is on page 4 or 5 of all 25 of the districts that I looked at is a summary of recommendations pages. And I took the summary of recommendations for all 25 districts that we've looked at that have had the audits over the last 5 years or so and copied this summary of recommendation pages. The reason is, basically, these audits are just like our financial audits in that they're prescriptive. There's a prescription that the auditors that are sent to do it have to go down and do their checklist. Did we look at this? Did we look? That's done every year with our regular audits. The performance audit works the same way. And as evidence to that, let's look the next one down, Brookfield. You see their audit. If you go down to page 3, 4, or 5, much smaller district. See, their whole audit was only about 19 pages long instead of 46, but you still have the executive summary. Everything's going to be exactly the same. Their summary recommendations table right here is much smaller. What I did on these summary recommendation tables then, pull it up.
It's open to go down to the bar. Yeah. It's open.
I highlighted the highest dollar, the three highest dollar in every one of the 25 that I looked at, with the exception of if one of the three highest dollar ones was to close the school. I didn't do that because we're a K-12 building. We don't have, we can't close Reedford Elementary, that doesn't exist. So by taking the three highest dollar amount of recommendations of all 25 audits, I was able to construct just a quick sheet and lists all 25 districts, Middletown City, all the way down. If it goes all the way down to, shows all 25. But what we're showing here, each column, looking at column B, eliminate general ed teachers. Of 25 districts, 20 of them said that was their recommendation. So that's pretty common, so that makes it pretty likely that that's what it would show for us. Eliminate ESP, which are the specials. 11 of the districts of the 25 showed it. Reduce health and dental insurance benefits. 15 of the districts showed that. Reduce non-teaching staff. 11 of the districts showed that. And then there was onesies and twosies of eliminate general fund subsidy for extracurricular, optimize open enrollment, negotiate new contract language. Well, the problem when you're not in fiscal emergency, we're subject to compulsory bargaining laws under Ohio Revised Code, so we can ask our associations to negotiate, but it's very unlikely they're going to say, sure, we'll pay a lot more and we'll take a pay cut. But if the state came in, obviously they could do that. I didn't go as far with this as to call every district and see who paid for this because they just wanted to, or who actually had to have it done because of the situation they were in. So the same thing with health and dental. We can't just lower the benefits, we'd have to negotiate that, and so that would be another issue as well. So the reason I put this thing together and put it for the board is if we look at the statistics that show that we'd be highly recommended maybe to do more than just the top 4 of these, but certainly would be recommended to do those sorts of things. I think what I said to the board is what would come out of this is South Range Local Board willing to reduce allowable programs? Is it prudent to take a desirable school district and reduce it to state minimum? Because that's really what the state auditor's office is at, where they want to go when you get in financial trouble. They want you to be state minimum. And state minimum is very minimum. It's like, would you want to go to your state minimum doctor? It's a lot of the programs that we have now we wouldn't have to have if we got to that point. And is that the right thing, both for our residents and our students? Is the right thing for students? Is something the board would consider? And also, is it the right thing as far as all of our property values? If it's not a move to district anymore, I think most real estate agents would continue to agree that schools are the primary factor in saleability of your home. So those are the things that I thought. My biggest point that I wanted to make to the board is that if we decide that yes, these are all the right things and we want to move this way, we know what they're going to tell us. We ought to just do it. We shouldn't pay $30,000 to have them tell us what we already know they're going to tell us. And so that was the main point of this.
And Jim, I know that people aren't going to be happy when we get rid of teachers. We already tried getting rid of a music teacher, and people in this very room were irate. So I know when we start getting rid of these programs and teachers, we're going to have people upset.
At this point, I just wanted to give the facts to the board and give you something to consider as we move forward in the next year and as we move forward into closer to fiscal year 20. When we're going to have financial trouble. That's the board's decision, not mine. I will direct whatever the board decides and just go from there. But those are the basic facts. I wanted everybody to understand exactly what these things look like. And like I said, they're very prescriptive. We know what they're going to tell us. So knowing that, it'd be, to me, not prudent to pay them $30,000 to come out and do something that we know what the audit's gonna look like, at least the basic part of it, at least first consider, are those things you'd be willing to do? Because it'd be even worse to pay the $30,000 plus and not do it.
Thank you.
I can close that.
And for the rest of the financial report, the regular general fund, the October's ending balance, $2,570,125.25. Encumbered against that, $2,085,102.70. Eyes are going bad. Leaving an unencumbered balance of $485,022.55. Call your attention to the 500s. You can see we still have negative balances, as you know, or at least I've said before. I'm not allowed to make requests for money that I can't disperse within 5 days. These figures in the 500 funds, our grant funds, were much higher. We did receive over $100,000 combined between the 3 grants since the printing, since the printing of this October report. We got it in early November, I believe it was. That said, our current fund balance, all funds, $3,577,511.92. Covered against that, $2,491,387.62, leaving an unencumbered balance of $1,086,124.30. And I just recalled, did do a purchase order December 1st. We have a bond payment due, and I'll be mailing that out soon. If you look at the bond fund, we had a current fund balance of $702,174.02. For our reconciliation of the total all funds balance of $3,577,511.92, in the Star General Fund account was $229,394.30. The Farmer's Sweep account, $3,738,845.55. Petty cash accounts of $780, and that math works out to negative $391,507.93. And that proofs out as follows. The regular general farmer's account, $849,959.25. We had cafeteria deposit and transit, $61.04. Our outstanding checks, $1,241,528.22, and that does proof out at negative $391,507.93. We've also received appropriation, revenue, and check pay reports, and if there are any questions on those, I can entertain them now. I did have one question from a board member over the weekend about the check pay report, and did report it was about the legal costs. And actually I did a little more, Corey, on that. I looked up there's a benchmark program for that, or articles more. And most districts in our county district and colleges, the governmental educational entities, they spend anywhere from 0.1% to about 0.8 of 1%. We're just barely over 0.1%, so we're actually at the low end spectrum. If you take our $15 million budget, and we spent about $26,000 on legal last year, and of course those numbers go up and down depending on, if you're getting sued or you've got a special ed issue or something like that. So, if there's no other questions to be asked or anything, I'll wrap it up.
Any questions for Mr. Phillips? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the financial report? Ralph moves, may I have a second?
Second.
Bill seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, on to new business. Mr. Dunham, district reports and good news.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. To get started, we have our monthly reports for the month of November. Before we call on Mr. Matus, reminder to our seniors that are here this evening, Emily Hira has a sign-in sheet for you to sign before you leave this evening. Mr. Matus, you're up first at elementary? Good news. Thank you.
Good evening, happy Thanksgiving to everybody on the board from the elementary. I just have one piece of good news I'm going to share tonight is we have Mrs. Maynard and Mrs. Scott here who are going to be talking from the elementary and high school about our mentoring program. So the one piece I wanted to share tonight, our fourth grade classes have been reading the book Wonder, and on Friday, November 17th, they all took a field trip to see a special viewing of the movie, and this was all in preparation for a special visit tomorrow from a former Poland student named Freddie Seitz. When Freddie was in Poland, and he's a graduate of Poland, it's when Mr. Rowan was in Poland. And Freddie was born with a craniofacial abnormality, the same as the character in the movie Wonder. At age 3, Freddie was deaf. And our fourth grade classes over the last several years have been reading this book. We were fortunate that Freddie came to visit about 2 years ago to a small group of fourth graders who read the book. Couldn't make the visit last year, but he is coming tomorrow. And he'll be meeting with all of our fourth grade students. When he does visit tomorrow, he'll be with his mom, who does travel with him, and with Miss Irene, who is a deaf educator. He'll be talking to our fourth graders about his experiences and everything he had to overcome as a young student in school, and just overcoming all of his differences. So just a big thank you to Mrs. Natalie Keenan, who was a big part in putting all of this together over the last few years, one of our fourth grade teachers, and Mrs. Barb Stacy, who's a former teacher in Poland. She's one of our subs in all of our buildings. She's here quite often. She's a wonderful lady. They set all this up for our boys and girls. So it really should be just a great day tomorrow and a great learning experience for all of our fourth graders.
Should we talk now?
Sure.
I thought you wanted to be back to
You know, let me, before they talk about the mentor program,
Sure not.
a little bit of good news from the high school, but we're really focusing on the mentor program. A few weeks ago, we had Ian Pearson qualify for the state cross-country meet. He went to Columbus, got to participate on that Saturday. Ian's a 4-year letter winner. He's a 4-year regional qualifier. His season best time of 16:26 moves him up 5th on the all-time South Range cross-country record board. So congratulations to Ian. He's one of the boys that is constantly running after school, whether it's really, really warm out or really, really cold out. There's a group of kids, maybe 3 boys and 3 girls, that are putting their stuff on almost every day and getting outside and running in our parking lot and on our little triangle here. So I just wanted to make sure that I congratulated Ian in front of our board. And now we'll have the 2 masterminds behind our mentor program go ahead and talk about our mentor program.
Sorry, I'm not Mr. Dunn.
Okay, Raider to Raider is the name of the program. It's brand new this year, and it came about, our young students naturally look up to the older students. Matter of fact, they look at them like they're rock stars. Last year was my first year in the elementary, and there was a group of students, I think it was a quartet from the band, that came into the elementary lunchroom and played. And when they were done, you thought the rock concert was done. These kids were screaming, and I think it actually took those older kids aback by how much adoration they had from the elementary. So this program, the goal is to have a qualified high school student serve as a mentor to one of our elementary students or a group of our elementary students. It can be for a wide range of situations. We have some mentors that work one-on-one with a student for academic reasons, behavioral, social skills. We can have a student that maybe organizes games at a recess. Depends on the gifts from the student and the needs from the elementary student. One quick example, at Camp Fitch, our fourth graders go for a few days, and we had one of the, I guess, can I say names? I can say, or not, I won't say names. But we had a student from the high school come and organize games while the students that couldn't go to Camp Fitch for whatever reason were there. And that was just so beneficial, and they had so much fun, so much enjoyment just from being around that relationship with the older student. And then the teacher had a chance to do some of the work that she needed to do at the same time, so it was a win-win for everybody. The mentees at the elementary are selected based on their needs and come from input from a variety. We meet as a team once a month with the teachers, and the teachers talk about individual students that they need help with. And then if it seems like a mentor can help in that situation, then we go to the high school, and Mrs. Scott will tell you what happens from there. I can't emphasize enough that those high school kids have that cool factor. They can reach kids in a way that adults can't reach kids. Benefits to the elementary student are they will have increased self-esteem and self-confidence. They will have better attitudes towards school and improved relationships. This whole program benefits the school, and it promotes healthy and positive relationships, which in turn builds community. Studies show that school-based mentoring programs have favorable effects on youth's grades, attendance, school behavior, and academic growth.
So at the beginning of the year, at the class meetings, we put it out there, all juniors and seniors, who was interested basically in helping in this program. We did generate a list from that, but ultimately, whenever Mr. Matus and Mrs. Maynard come over, we sit and look at what the need is, and then we look at study halls and see who's available, who can we pool. So we are definitely taking their input, but also looking and seeing who would be the best fit for that need, because they are different. Some are social, as far as helping a kid in the cafeteria. Some are just getting a student, to sit and kind of pay attention during the beginning of the day. We have a lot of the beginning of the day kinds of needs. So that kind of works out. All the students, when we think about why we're choosing them, grades are not a factor. We're not choosing 11th and 12th graders, just, the kids who have straight A's. We're choosing them across the board. Who would be a good fit for the entire student? It is every day, so it's not similar to a program where they could just help as needed. It's every day, because we want the benefit to be so the expectation is there for both the high school student and the elementary student, so they know the expectation. This person's going to come, they're going to help me, they're going to sit with me, they can look forward to it. And both students, on each side of it, do look forward to it. And it's not just elementary. We do have some, in several situations, we have high school students mentoring with our special, with Samantha McMahon's program, the MH unit, in the middle school. We have quite a few of those too, where it's helping, and they're going even on their own time. Currently, we have 11 junior and senior students enrolled in the mentor program. And again, those are based on choice. The cool thing about it is when we think about benefits for the high school students, these are students, some who have education goals, that maybe they want to be a teacher, but we have 3 that have the desire, or who have expressed the desire to go into the medical field. So this is another way that they're getting to work with students, people that are different than them, who aren't at the exact same level all the time. So they're just able to see that. I did get one quote from a student. He said I could say his name. I don't do that. Okay, so Matt Brooks was one of our guys this year, and he said it's basically being a role model and knowing that I'm being watched and imitated. And he'll tell you a couple stories about how he will do something, even something simple with his hand, and he looks over and his little guy is doing the exact same thing instantly. And he said it's really cool because, everyone's always telling you, you're a role model, you have to be a leader. But I guess even he didn't necessarily realize it until he was put in a situation and he saw it, right back at him. I've heard all positive feedback from the teachers who we have students going there, and from the students. I've also seen our high school students working together, collaborating, which I think is pretty cool. Outside of that program, just in my classroom, one student will mention what they did, and they're like, wait, how did you get him to do that? And again, that's student-driven. That's not me encouraging them. That's just them talking, trying to make it a better situation for the student, and I think that's pretty important too. Thanks.
Scott and Mrs. Maynard, thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Obviously, our goal is to expand the program. This is really a result of our district-wide strategic planning committee team that we implemented last year. This is one of the bright spots. One of the things that came from district culture and communications was the mentor program. And in a K-12 building, we're able to do these types of things that you don't always see in standalone buildings where you have an elementary that may be 5-6 miles from a high school or middle school. So we have the ideal atmosphere, environment for a mentoring program. And it isn't just academics. It could, as far as you could think in your mind, it could be kids mentoring on school buses. after-school activities, weekends. So we have an opportunity to really make a difference with our older kids and our younger kids. So thank you both. Appreciate that. Mr. Zoll?
Good evening, everyone. I'll echo Mr. Matus' sentiments and extend a happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Just a couple things real quick from the middle school, and then I also have a special guest, Mr. Sabota. You know Mr. Sabota, he's our jack of all trades here. He is our middle school play director. They did a performance at a local nursing home, and I'll let him handle that when we get to it. This past weekend, we had 4 students represent South Range Middle School at the District Honors Band. Those students were Brian Stanley, Sally Dispenza, Philip Naples, and Andre Pagnotta. So we just want to give a big shout out to them. From all accounts, they did extremely well and represented South Range Middle School in a very positive fashion. Also in late October, which I didn't get to report, I received notification from State Representative John Boccieri that the middle school received an EOEP 2017 Excellence in Education Award for having at least 30% of students completing 8th grade earn at least one Algebra 1 or Integrated Math 1 high school class credit. So again, very positive from our math department at the middle school. Short and sweet from the middle school from my end, so that we can have Mr. Sabota show you the good things that are going on with the play.
Evening, everyone.
You got it. I don't know if you want to come out front and see the...
Yeah, if you want to see, I've got a little a video, of course. So we're doing, if you don't know, the show this year is called A Good Man, Charlie Brown. It's a really fantastic show. It's a high school show that we've actually made into a middle school show. And about a month ago, I got an email from one of the parents of one of his kids and said, would you be interested in going and doing an outreach to a local nursing home, Shepherd of the Valley? And I'm sort of, absolutely. So I put it to the kids, got a decent response, and then little by little got more and more response. So we had to go over on a Saturday, and the kids came over, and we got probably about 80% of them came, because we're out of town. And we got to do a performance of some of the songs for the residents there, and the parents came. And I wanted to show you a little, about a 4-minute just little snippet of some of the things that they did there. And then I'm going to take it a little step further because something really interesting came out of this. Sound here too. Oh, I don't want to see that. Come on, be nice. Oh, I want you to turn it to me.
Do you have QuickTime on that computer?
Yeah, I'll try with that.
Okay, 'cause
It's trying Media Player, so I'll try it with QuickTime instead. If that doesn't work, I'll have to go the Mac route. We have. We got iTunes, we have a Windows Media Player. Do you know if you have QuickTime on that one?
I should use the Mac.
Sorry, folks. Pull it out of there. Technology's great when it works. Any questions about the play at all? It's December 1st, for anybody who would like to come. Maybe December 1st.
Unless there's a conflict.
Yes, we have a contingency plan. If things go the way everybody hopes they'll go, we will make an adjustment there. That's not a problem, because yeah, it was supposed to be last Friday, and then we changed it because of Honors Band, because I thought, there's nothing happening on December 1st. But that's okay. Okay, let's see. Let me sign in here. Do we have something on the screen yet?
Yeah. You might be,
Did it extend?
split screen. Yeah, you might
Oh.
be expanded.
Anyway, it's still booting in as a guest user. So anyway, it's supposed to be December 1st. If not, we'll make a move. But tickets are on sale in the office if you would be interested in coming. See if I can move it over into the other screen.
No, it's up now.
It's up now? Oh, okay. Am I going to get any sound? I guess I'll have to jack this up. I don't know if there's... Okay. There's QuickTime.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
And there they are. We had a really warm reception. The kids went around to all the residents and talked to every person that was there, and they absolutely loved it. So here's where it gets kind of different a little bit, and we got, like I said, really good reception. People enjoyed it. Somebody put that same photo that we had up there. It was on Facebook. So we came along, and there was somebody on there named Veronica asking, where did this picture come from? Is there any way somebody could tell me that I could find more of these? And we didn't know who this person was, didn't recognize the name, so didn't really respond. Well, then we got an email from this person. Myself and my wife did. And it turns out that this person, someone that some of us here have been around a long time, remember, her name was Veronica Pryor. They did this show probably 15 years ago here before I took over. They did Good Man Charlie Brown. She was Snoopy. And she saw this picture on there. Well, that's the first thing that was kind of interesting. So she sent us this email saying, remember me, Mom, you may remember my brother, Nathaniel Pryor. He graduated last spring. I'm his big sister, Veronica. Tells us she was in the play. And I thought that's kind of cool. The picture from the November 11th, Your Good Man Charlie Brown sneak peek performance at Shepherd of the Valley appeared in my Facebook feed. My grandma was a resident there and was at the performance. She was delighted to attend and was so excited because some of the cast members talked with her following the show. She passed later that night. I graduated from South Range in 2001 with Snoopy in the high school performance. Maybe it brought back a memory to her on her last day. Either way, I want to thank you and the cast for bringing joy to these residents and for making that morning a pleasant one for someone I love so much. And I told the kids that. I read the kids this email. And you would have thought, you could have heard a pin drop. I had their attention the whole time. I said, this is why we do what we do. This is why we went to this place. I said, you never know the impact that you're going to have on somebody's life. And I said, you remember this, and you someday when you're my age, you tell your kids what happened here. And it's something you should never forget. And I honestly believe this is something that they'll keep in their hearts forever. So I couldn't think of a better way to talk about good news than that.
Thank you, Mr. Sabot.
Thank you.
Continue, Mr. Davis, we all right?
Yes, right up.
Okay, we do not have Caitlin Pierce here with food service for Mr. Farron. In fact, he's selling playoff tickets tonight from 7 to 10 p.m. Mrs. Lewis, any
Business
report?
as usual. I can't really follow that, Mr. Sabota, so.
Thankfully, huh? Yeah. Mr. Dunn?
Good evening. In transportation, our Stuff the Bus campaign that we had in late October proved to be very successful. We collected a whole bus worth of items, and all those items were taken to Puerto Rico to help the hurricane victims down there. Similar to the mentoring program that these ladies talked about, one of our drivers, Lisa Brumbaugh from bus number 9, has a more challenging route, and she had an idea of having a Big Brother, Big Sister program. This is something we'd like to utilize in all of our bus routes that kind of give some of our elementary students a high school leader to help guide them on the bus to curb some of their bad behavior, or just to mentor them through difficult times in life, or even help them with their homework on the bus. So we're going to try to do that in the coming months. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pagnotta, Technology and Facilities.
Good evening. Technology, it will be time pretty soon to fill out our E-rate 470 form. That's a federal assistance program that we get involved in every year to help subsidize some of our technology costs that we pay to the Access Council, which is where we get our network from, and they have a fiber backbone that supports our internet here that's community owned, like district owned in the county. And we also have the opportunity to get what they're calling Category 2 dollars, which depending on our threshold, when I talked with Mr. Phillips and Mr. Dunham, and of course we talked about the budget earlier, if we can afford to pay for half of the cost of the equipment we need, then it's lucrative to enter into this venture. We don't know what those numbers are yet. The 470 form is a form where it goes out and companies come back and they basically send you a proposal on what they can do for us and the equipment we need. But what I'm looking at this year is a network refresh of our hardware that supports the network. We have approximately 60 devices throughout the facility that keep the network up district-wide, phones, internet, the wireless is part of that. So that's what we're going to look at this year to see where we're at and what the scope of that project would be. Unfortunately, this is FCC regulated, so there's no telling when they're going to drop that funding either. So it's one of those things you want to try to take advantage of if you can. But again, it's like a 50%, and that number is based on our ADM count and our free and reduced count for the district. Technology, that's technology side. On maintenance, I got a couple props. We're looking into, of course, always trying to save some money, LED technology. Toss these down. Don't drop them though, we don't know them. They look expensive. These are for our outside, those first two larger fixtures are for our outside lights. LED technology, most of them are going to cut our power consumption up to a quarter of what we already use out there. We have 32 of the high poles. We're looking into that. We're also looking into our gyms. This one here, this is a standard CLF fluorescent bulb that we have. Now, not too many years ago, these were new, right? These were the thing, everyone was changing these. Now they have an LED retrofit for these. And what's interesting about these, when we switch those out, we can do away with the ballast in some cases. So you're not only doing away with the bulb itself, which burns out frequently, but you're doing away with what powers the bulb in the background. And that's going to save us a lot of money. Timely to bring that up because today we had a meeting too. There are rebates they provide for. So if we can have the opportunity then to take advantage of some of that. And again, like everything else, this is changing so quickly. You can't say in another 5 years what's going to change. And it's something that's worth doing because it's going to save us money. But it's like a continuous cycle right now. It changes. Had the opportunity to go down to Ohio School Boards Association Capital Conference. And they talked about a lot of this technology. I sat in some good learning sessions. One of the trends they kept bringing up is since 2012, the amount of technology has doubled in districts. And even things like you wouldn't think of access control is more of a technology than it is a maintenance item these days. So we're doing the best we can. We're continuing with it, and everything else is working good right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, this fixture that Mr. Phillips has,
it may.
The fixture that Mr. Phillips has is about a 100-watt fixture. Am I right in saying that? Mm-hmm. If you think of our light poles outside and in the gyms, those are 400-watt bulbs that we have, so you can tell the amount of energy that we're utilizing and what that would do for us in terms of efficiency. We have upwards of 120 fixtures that have 400-watt bulbs in our gyms in the outside, not to mention all of the retrofitting we would do in classrooms over time that would take the place. And even though they're in most cases 9 to 10 years old as this building was built, that technology has surpassed what we put in 9 years ago.
And typically 5 years too, guaranteed. We did our auditorium, we did it in-house, so we didn't have labor costs involved in that. We did get a rebate back for that. And we had a bulb that went out, they replaced it, no charge.
Thank you.
And they can calculate too by kilowatt hour how much you're going to save over a period of time in addition to the rebates. And so it's pretty easy to figure out that it's the thing to do.
Coons or Mr. Yoke and legislative or student chief?
Nothing going on legislatively. Okay. We're on to resolutions. Home Savings Bank Depository Agreement.
I'm prohibited by state law from opening an account anywhere that the board doesn't allow me to open an account. And years ago, prior to 2008, with the financial crisis, we actually were with Home Savings. We've since gone to Farmers. Farmers has been fantastic to us. To this day, I have no intent of pulling away from Farmers. However, right now, they're about 0.5% higher on interim investment. And during the times when we have property settlements, we have a lot of money, and then it goes down over a period of 6 months. And we have a second half property, and we have a lot of money again. So there could be a period of time where we could take just some of that money and move it over and get a little higher interest on it. But in order to do that, I would need the board's blessing to give a depository agreement to them.
Okay. South Range High School Robotics Club approval.
You're going to hear me talk about a lot of clubs and trips over the next few minutes. The first is our high school robotics club, and the next one will be the ski club approval. Both were approved last year. Mr. Ken Kuzer is in the back, and Ken has been gracious enough to be our unpaid volunteer advisor for the robotics club. And Mr. Rowan has been talking to me, and I haven't had an opportunity to see the club in action, but I'm hearing good things with our robotics club. Outside the district, we have a number of students that are very interested and very good at what they're doing in terms of robotics. I want to thank Mr. Kuzer and ask the board's approval to continue with the robotics club for 17-18 school year. Along with the high school ski club approval, Mr. Kuzer again will be the unpaid volunteer assistant for the 17-18 school year. Any comments, Mr. Rowan or Mr. Kuzer, on the club itself?
No, I just wanted to say I really appreciate the fact that we were able to do this this year. I have 3 of my robotics young ladies here, Nicole and Emily and Mackenzie. They're part of the program. We have 15 students in the robotics club, I think, and it's a great opportunity for them to have a competition. They do learn a lot. There's a lot of interaction. I tell them every day is that I'm just here to get you to the events. You got to figure out how to do this competition, how to build robots, and how to win. My job is just to get you there, so and help you and help them fund it too. We're self-funded. They do a lot of their own fundraising, so we've basically paid for ourselves. I think we do a pretty good job at those things. And ski club is another issue. It's basically that again. That's I guess we call it pay to play. The students pay for their ski lessons and their skiing and in the bus. So there's no cost again to the board. So we have that going for us. That's about all I can say.
Thank you for your support.
One of the fundraisers for robotics, if you don't mind me bringing it up, is the Donate to Dine at Texas Roadhouse. They'll donate 10% of the proceeds to the robotics club, and that's how we've been able to raise the bulk of the money for what we've been doing this year. So the girls have flyers if you like one. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the high school speech and debate team trip approval.
Very seasonal item. Our speech and debate team is in full swing, and they'll be traveling anytime that our students are traveling and staying overnight for tournaments. I'd like the board's approval. Our speech and debate team will be traveling to Sylvania, Ohio on January 12th, returning on January 13th, and they will be participating in another speech and debate tournament in Toledo, Ohio, and that's on March 1st through the 3rd, 2018. Students will be transported by South Range Local School District authorized transportation and supervised by chaperones and advisors at all times during the trip.
And high school softball trip.
We have the softball team, their annual trip to Myrtle Beach. Be here before you know it. They participate in the softball tournament during the spring break recess, April 2nd through the 6th of 2018. Parents will be transporting their daughters to South Carolina for the softball tournament.
And the high school marching band trip.
And this one is not next year, but it's the year after, and that's how far ahead we need to plan in terms of Marching band, this is a trip to Orlando to Disney. This is March 13th through the 18th of 2019. The Raider Band will perform at Disneyland in Orlando. The trip will be chaperoned and transportation provided by a licensed motor coach company. Again, that's March 13th through the 18th of 2019. This is the trip that our marching band takes once every 4 years.
Okay, next up is elementary, middle, and high school student handbook addendum approval.
As everyone's aware, we have an elementary, middle, and high school handbook, code of conduct, and inside that handbook are all of the policies and procedures associated with all three buildings. This resolution is to move that the board approve an addendum to the elementary, middle, and high school student handbooks. The handbooks will be fully updated and be fully compliant with House Bill 410. House Bill 410 is an attendance policy which encourages and supports a preventative approach to excessive absences and truancy. Definition of truancy and excessive absences will be in the addendum. Truancy is now decriminalized with several changes. We also have the district responsibilities when a child has excessive absences, when a child is habitually truant. This addendum will be sent home next week as students return from the Thanksgiving break. But again, this is House Bill 410 that we're required to abide by, and we'll be fully compliant with that addendum in the student handbooks.
Okay. Next up is the December Board of Education meeting date discussion.
Just asked to throw this out to consider if the board would be willing to change the December date from the 18th to the 13th. Mr. Kogan, if you'd like to talk about that then.
Yeah, and I talked to Amy. I believe, Amy, you have a conflict on the 13th.
Correct.
I don't know if anybody will be willing to move it. I know I won't be there, and I know our two board member elects said that they wouldn't be able to make it.
I also have a conflict. My son's playing in Pittsburgh on that day.
Okay. Is there another day that would work?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure of another day. Only Tuesdays and Fridays are out for me.
Right now, it's scheduled for the 18th, which is a Monday.
And the 13th for me was, I had something, I won't say it would be impossible to change, but got something else scheduled on the 13th also, so.
I think December's a hard month to try to
Yeah,
rework.
a
A lot going on.
It's usually a fairly light meeting historically, there's not a lot going.
Reminder, we'll have our organizational and regular meeting, which will be held early in January. That helps any with this decision making.
Oh, that's right, we have.
I think we're looking tentatively, we'll talk next month, I'll throw out a date, but I think it's like January 8th or.
Yeah, because we have to be reorganized from a state perspective before the 15th, is it? Is that right?
I mean, if we can't move it, it's fine.
It would have to be earlier, not later, because the 21st is after the 21st is no good for me.
I mean, is everybody else good on the 18th, or?
I'm good on the 18th.
I'd say just leave it the 18th, and I don't think there'll be that much. Typically, there's not that much that goes on in December.
No.
Okay. Next up is the tentative 2017-2018 academic calendar modifications.
This is a good problem for us to have. As we're all aware, our football team has made it to the state semifinals this Friday as they play in Strongsville. And if we're looking ahead, and by no means is this, I guess I'm looking to be hopeful, but in this position, in the board's position, we need to look more than just 4 or 5 days ahead. We need to look at times years ahead, but in this case, about a week ahead. In the event our football team were to win on Friday evening, the way that the state bracketing takes place for the state championship football game It's either next Thursday evening at 7:30. They could play Friday morning, or Friday afternoon, or Friday evening. So the Thursday evening or Friday evening at 7:30 in Canton really is not a problem for our student body, our staff, our community. Really no different than what we've been through the last, well, all season, through the last 13, 14 games coming up to 14. What I've asked the board is to authorize me to modify the 17-18 academic calendar pending the outcome of the OHSAA State Division 5 semifinal football game in which the South Range High School football team is participating. In the event the South Range High School football team advances to the Division 5 state football tournament and is scheduled to play on December 1st, 2017 during school hours, the academic calendar will be modified. The modification will authorize the school to be closed on Friday, December 1st, 2017, and a makeup day will be added to the end of the academic calendar, which is scheduled for Friday, June 1st, 2018. Right now, our last day of school for students is May 31st, which is a Thursday. We'll bump it one day to Friday, June 1st. A lot of things to take into consideration. If it's an evening game, not a big problem. If it's a day game, busing alone would be very difficult for us to send the number of buses we take as it is to a game and be able to have substitutes and spare buses to handle this change. And then, as I just mentioned, House Bill 410, much more stringent attendance policies in place, and that would not bode well for our students and for our district in terms of attendance. So hopeful and wishful thinking on, I believe, all of in our minds here in this board meeting, that we're playing next Friday, a week from this Friday, but pending the outcome, we would close school on the 1st and move that day to June 1st. That's all my resolutions.
Okay.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Can we make that like snow day so that students don't have to make up the week of that?
That is not something that we're able to do. Yeah. Ohio Department of Education is a little funny about that.
Unless it snows.
Unless it snows.
Okay. Next up is public participation on November agenda items. Does anybody? Yes, sir.
Say my name, Taylor Christian. I have a couple of things to bring up. So do you want me to just bring it up all at once in my 2 minutes, or should I go one thing and then discussion, another thing, discussion, and then the last thing?
You can bring them all up this far.
All right. The first thing I kind of wanted to ask Mrs. Scott and Mrs. Maynard this: what are the incentives for the Raider to Raider for like kids to get involved in the Raider to Raider program? I mean, like I think it's important that they kind of.
Do you mean the high school students?
Yeah, for the high school students.
They actually do receive credit. So
Okay.
it's a pass-fail credit, but it is a credit toward their graduation.
Okay, cool. So and all the other and teachers writing letters of recommendation will see that too.
Yes.
Okay, cool. The second thing I wanted to ask, are Terry and I going to be allowed into executive session today? I think it would be beneficial to our transition, and since neither of us can make the December meeting, this would kind of be our best chance to get kind of caught up on any property sales, staff, or lawsuits that you're considering.
No, that's against state law and board policy.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, that's
Other
the
school
rule.
districts do it, it's not against state law.
And it's not against board policy, and there's precedent. When Fred Schuster was on the board, I believe they either let Ralph, Mark Whitmer, or Dick Watts into executive session after they were elected.
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't remember if it is.
I don't remember. I thought it was against state law, but executive session, we can call the lawyer if you like, and hopefully they'll answer.
You can invite anybody, if you read the law, you can invite anybody into executive session to talk to them for just about anything.
And we've done that. If there's a specific concern, absolutely, we've done that in the past.
Yeah, we've invited people in if they have a specific issue. Yeah, but just
It needs to be handled under, where it's private.
I still think it would be good for us as far as our transition, because again, we're going to be here in January. So I think it would be a good thing for us to at least kind of know what lawsuits or property sales or any disciplinary action, hirings, firings that you're considering.
Does anybody have any feedback on that? I don't know about the precedents that you brought up with Mr. Schuster, Mr. Whitmer, and Mr. Watts coming in.
We've had people come in, but it's because they had an issue with the board that maybe involved their child, and we didn't want to discuss.
It's a confidential issue.
Yeah, confidential issues.
Well, Fred Schuster just told me that tonight when I asked him about it. He said that he couldn't remember whether it was Ralph, Mark, or Dick Watts.
I mean, if it was
after they were elected.
If it was me, I honestly, I can't say one way or the other.
Let me see if I can get a hold of the lawyer,
I don't think
see
so,
what's
but I don't know. I honestly don't remember one way or the other.
Did you have anything else, Taylor, while we make the phone calls?
The last thing I have is kind of questions for Mr. Phillips. So that's,
all right, go ahead.
In talking to your 30,000 number for the performance audit, and you don't have to pay if you follow all recommendations, is different than when I was talking to a Yoast staffer. I was told that you pay if they save you more than it costs, which I mean they likely would as far as the recommendations, and it, like the range they gave me was 15 to 80,000. And I mean, if we're getting a letter about fiscal caution, I think it would be probably prudent to at least look at the state performance audit. I think as far as the general teaching staff, if they tell us we should eliminate a teacher, I mean, we kind of need pretty much all of the teachers we have, don't we? So it's unlikely that they would tell us to
We're
eliminate.
not at state minimum, but
Well, I mean, we can always, like you said, not follow certain recommendations, and I think if we do a good enough, like this, I think really boils down to having a third party coming in to look at the finances, because this district does right now have a trust issue. I think that's a large part of what was behind the last few levies failing. So I think it would be good to at least have the state performance audit done so that a third party can come in and look, and then we can show the district what they recommended, and then we can say, hey, this is the recommendations we did follow, this is what we didn't follow. We didn't follow these because you guys as a community think this is necessary for the students, or it's something that's
certainly whatever the board says we'll do. Right now, this board didn't, over the past year or so, decided not to do it. If when you and Mrs. Lally, and I guess it would be the two new ones, if the board decides to do it, then we'll do it.
Have you looked closely at the...
I've often made
at
recommendations
any
that
of
the board doesn't follow, and that's just part of being who who a treasurer or superintendent is. So
Have you looked
guys are
closely
the
at those, Taylor, at the different things that are cut? Because honestly, we have looked at them. I know you may think that this is the first time that we've seen.
Yeah.
We have looked at them even in the past, even school board members before. We really have looked at those, and a lot of those things we've already done. We took our bus fleet and cut the whole route in half.
Well,
We took our nurse, we had 2 nurses when she retired. We combined it in one. Dean Pagnotta does 2 jobs. Those are all things that a performance audit would do that we have. Dennis has already done those things. So don't think that we haven't been looking at these or done things instead of it, or we're ignoring them. We're not. We've already done a lot of those things. And you'll find out.
Yeah, I'll see that, but I think something that's really important is also that you sort of, like, when you're doing these things, you have to let the community know, because again, that goes back to the lack of trust
Just
between
like the
administration
Education
and
Inc.
community.
video that Jim Phillips organized for people to come look and see what happens when this exact thing is done. We had about...
What, 40 people?
You were there, yeah. So we put it out there, we asked people to come, asked to tell them. The same people come.
It was at 5 or 6 o'clock, Amy. People worked.
It wasn't at...
I was able to get there.
Great.
You can talk on the news all day, Rich, but you can't come at 5 or 6 o'clock, and you can call.
I worked till 9 that night, Rob. I work retail.
Well,
I don't have a...
And Rich, that is
7 to 4
one
7 to 3
example.
job.
I mean, there are other days, if we would have had it at 7 o'clock on a different night, there would have been a group of people that couldn't come to that meeting either. So, I mean, there's things that happen in the daytime, PTO meetings that I work at those days. I can't go to those meetings.
All right, in a nutshell, then, this is it. There's no way we're gonna pass another levy. I mean, I'm not trying to be negative, that's just I mean, if you go and talk to people in the community, you're not gonna pass another levy. Nobody supports one. And we're heading to the point where we're gonna we would need a lot of millage anyway, so it's never gonna pass. So what's the solution? I mean, for 2 years, you guys just gave him a $10,000 raise when you knew we were headed into fiscal trouble. Yet you gave your superintendent a $10,000 raise. He wasn't going anywhere. I mean, you guys, this board specifically has buried this district. I said 2 years ago when I ran, 2 years ago, you had to make cuts then if you were going to keep the district solvent. And you guys chose not to do it. You not only didn't make cuts, you gave raises. And I'm not against the teachers getting a raise. Do I think they deserved it? Yes. You guys didn't have the money in the bank to afford it, however. But you chose to go ahead with it. Jimmy took a lot of heat for quote-unquote finding $400,000 or whatever it was. Jimmy didn't find it. Kasich said he was going after that money, then Kasich decided to run for president. And he didn't go after the money. But you knew darn well when he lost, if he was still governor, he was going to come back after it, which is exactly what happened.
And that is a lot of our problem.
But you guys took that $400,000 and used it to justify raises that you shouldn't have. Jimmy put it in his footnotes that, hey, I still think this money's going to disappear. And you guys ignored the footnotes. You guys buried this district. Now, what's your, we're going to have two people that don't have to worry about it. Dale and John lost hugely. They came in last. You have two sitting board members that came in last place in this election. The people have spoken. My question to you now is, what's your solution? If we're not going to follow performance audit recommendations, how do you, Amy White, get the district out of this situation?
Well, there are options, but you know,
What are
you know that the way that the state is funded, public schools are funded, is illegal. It's what we're dealt with. None of us like it. None of us want a levy, Rich. There's not one person that wants up here.
It's not what you want. It's not going to pass.
I understand your feelings on that. I get that.
It's not just. I personally would. If I thought you guys were being fiscally responsible, I would flat out support it. I don't think you are.
We honestly,
that's the thing.
a lot that we think of is our students.
How many
We have a lot of
Jim
people
right now.
that want to be a yes, but they're a no because they don't trust the
This has gone on far enough.
Yes, I agree.
Way more than 2 minutes. Okay.
Oh, what was the, sorry, what was the
Yeah, he said that the two new ones can come in, but you wouldn't be bound to the same constraints until you're, and I'm telling this for the member of the sitting board, you know how you're not allowed to talk about things that we talk, they would be allowed. So anything that was said in there, they can go out and if we were talking about fire and Joe Smo, they can run out and tell Joe Smo, or if that, I don't know even what's on the agenda there, but that's the only recommendation, or not recommendation, but concern that he had.
So anything that we talk about in that meeting, they're free to go tell whoever.
Is there anything we could sign
I'm not
that would say
comfortable
we
with
would
that.
have those restrictions, or?
This is a board decision at this point. Is it legal? Yes. He said the only thing is express to them the concern that you would not yet be bound to the same things you're bound to once we swear you in on January 8th.
You don't have a non-disclosure agreement. I mean, I can sign something, business discussions.
I didn't happen to.
Okay.
And what are you afraid of? These two are going to be in charge in 40 days. They're going to be there. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid they're going to find? I mean, you guys traditionally, what you
They're going to
deal
be
with
there.
in
How many
open.
days did you say, and how many days they'll be there?
Did you ever run for office? Did you win?
Here's
No,
my,
I didn't.
here's
There you
my.
go. It's right there then too.
If
Like you
I
said- just
did,
like you said
I'd be
these
the
guys
type of thing.
lost.
If I did, we
Just
wouldn't
like
be in
you
the
said these
financial
guys lost.
situation
Oh, I
we're
know.
in, right?
Right, I know.
We wouldn't be in the financial situation.
Gentlemen, here's my input. I don't care about the election. The election's over. Our job, we have one job here, and that's for the kids.
Thank you, Corey, that's
Yeah.
right.
Now,
That's why.
my personal opinion is, if we can help the transition though, I think we should. That's just my opinion. Whatever we agree on as a board, I'm going to respect all their decisions. I think, can we make it a vote? Can we make that a motion to vote?
Do anything you want, you're the board.
I could bring up one thing. I honestly, we don't even need to have executive session, to be quite honest.
That's
There's nothing, I was looking through the motion.
So why do we have it scheduled?
I'm sorry?
Then why did you schedule it?
Always have, there's personnel in here that may be confidential, that they may not approve of. That's why it's scheduled, that's why it's always
You said we
scheduled, it's
don't need it.
personnel. That's my opinion, it's not theirs, I'm just sharing it with them. If you'd like to do that, that's fine, if you, whatever you prefer.
Mr. President, could we add, if we vote for executive session, if we go into it, could we add, can I make a motion then to allow them into it?
Yeah, we can make a motion to,
If we vote to go into executive session, is that fair?
yeah, that's fair to say.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about the November resolutions? Okay. This time I'd like to go back and get votes on everything. The Home Savings Bank Depository Agreement, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Dale moved, may I have a second?
Second.
Corey seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The South Range High School Robotics Club approval, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Dale moves, may I have a second?
Second.
All seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the Ski Club approval, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Corey moves, may I have a second? Second. Dale seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. South Range High School Speech and Debate Team Trip approval, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Amy moves, may I have a second?
Second.
All seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The softball team trip, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Dale moves, may I have a second?
Second.
30 seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of high school marching band trip. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Ralph moves, may I have a second?
Second.
Dale seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The student handbook addendums related to truancy, may I have a motion to,
So moved.
Amy moves, may I have a second?
Second.
40 seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The meeting date, discussion of December, moving the meeting date, may,
There's no action on that.
no action. And the tentative academic calendar modification, may I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
40 seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And Mr. Dunham, I need a little bit of clarification on the executive session before we finish up. Just
I don't have any information on sale of property right now.
Okay.
The other one is, the other items are strictly personnel. I'm pretty comfortable, I believe, with what I have here, but
One of the things that we do is try not to, if somebody's coming from another district and we're considering them and then they don't get the job, now they got to go home with their tail between their legs. That's one of the reasons the law is designed to try to protect that sort of thing.
Is that a situation tonight?
I don't know.
Dennis does.
I don't know that.
Listen, guys, there's nothing, if they want to come into executive session, I am perfectly fine with that. There's nothing that's coming here that they don't.
We don't even need a resolution. The board can invite them.
I am perfectly fine. They're gonna be on the board in 2 months. We don't have anything pending that we're gonna vote on, hopefully on anything here. So whatever we want to do, if we want to do an executive session and have them come in, I'm okay with that. Whatever everybody else wants to do. Listen, as we move forward, we've got to try to work together as a board. Obviously, Dale and John are going to be done. We sure don't want to get off on the wrong feet and stuff. So
Yeah, I guess
whatever everybody wants to do, I'm okay either way.
My only concern is any personnel moves that are going to be made, if you know the person, and it's something that might be, I don't see anything, but anyway, just use discretion, please.
And that's if we vote to go into executive session, correct?
Yeah, if we go into executive session. And Mr. Deno, October, November, December district updates, please.
I'll try to be very brief here. Again, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for everyone's support. We've made it through better than the first 9 weeks of the 17-18 school year. That was completed on October 27th. Lots happened since the last board meeting. We've had fall parent-teacher conferences. We've hosted financial aid nights. We witnessed Powder Puff football, senior parent night for our fall sports, Camp Frederick for 6th grade students, elementary PTO auction, and book fairs, just to name a few things over the last few weeks. We know that Halloween has come and gone, and it's an excitable time for our elementary and middle school kids, and now our sights are set for the holiday season. We're transitioning from our fall to winter sports and activities. As you've heard, winter sports, in fact, I believe we have our first contest this Friday afternoon with girls basketball. Congrats to all of our athletic teams, cheerleaders, and coaches for their dedication throughout the fall. Very proud of how they represented South Range schools, and as you've all heard, and our hopes are with our football team that we get past Friday night's game. A couple of things, and really, Mr. Wentz just mentioned it, and I talked a little bit about it last month, and it's just sharing and relationships with people, and really working on decency and respect with one another. And when these are hot button items and things that we're talking about that seem to get the hair to stand up on the back of everyone's neck, we need to just step back and take a breath. And you know, we're all, I believe it, I truly believe it, we're all pulling in the same direction, and that same direction has to be for the kids that are in that fourth row back. That's what really drives all of us. If it doesn't, then shame on you. It has to drive you. And we have to do the right thing for those kids. Money brings out the best and the worst in people. And I've been doing this long enough that money continues to bring out, in this case, the worst in a lot of people, myself included. We want to do the right thing for people, but when there's personal attacks on people, whether it's coming from the board or audience to the board or to me, it's hard. It's hard sometimes to stand tall. And I've said this for years, I'm always going to stand tall, and I'm going to do what's best in my mind for kids. Just like all of you in this audience and this board, you're going to do what's best in your mind, in their mind, for kids. And that's what has to drive all of us. I talked a little bit about communications and district culture, about our strategic plan, and I'd like to take it to the streets, the communication piece, the district culture piece. Facebook, Instagram, social media, all the sites are constantly, and I'm sure there's people in here already that are texting, there's people in here that are posting things on social media about this board meeting. Am I correct? I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen people do it. And so this is one of the things that we deal with on a constant daily basis. Before you ever leave this meeting, there's a lot of people that already know what went on. Obviously, we're filming it, and we'll post that. Sometimes we, the board, myself, we don't have the opportunity to respond to those social media posts. It's really one-sided. So what I'd like to try to recommend, one of the things I'm going to be looking to do in the month of December and really to incorporate it in January, is to have a community and school, or school and community straight talk meetings at least once a month. Not in the school, not in a formal board meeting, because board meetings are really for board business. But to have a meeting in Beaver Township, to have a meeting in Green Township on a monthly basis, to invite a Green Township trustee, a Beaver Township trustee, to take an administrator with me, to take a board member or two with me to these meetings. And it's no agenda, but it's just straight talk, and it's in response to either social media, or it's in response to the misinformation that may be out there, or just questions that people may have. Every day I hear things, I see things, but I can't always push out that information to this audience or to the school system to kind of write things the way that at least I feel they should be. righted, so to speak. So the school and community, straight talk meetings. In fact, I'm talking to clergy tomorrow morning to have a representative in Beaver Township, a representative in Green Township, and just try to get some people, business leaders in our community, maybe 6, 7, 8 people that can just sit down, circle up, and just talk about good. And when I say good, I'm talking about our school system, our community, and try to make things better. I mentioned this for the last 2 weeks. If you drive 46 and go north and cross over Western Reserve, you're going to notice a sign on the west side of the road that says Canfield Proud. How many of you have seen it? Canfield Proud, big sign. And it has our school, our community. Many districts have signs like that. But we've gotten away from it here, not just, I don't want to just say South Range, whether it's North Lima, whether it's Greenford. This is the hub. We're in the middle of both townships. If we can't bring people together, then we need to really take a look at ourselves. We need to start bringing people together, and it goes back to that decency and respect, and we need to treat people that way. So next month I'll report, how did I make out? Did I get some clergy members? Did I get a Green Township official, a Beaver Township official? I know we have board members that would attend, and I know I have administrators that would attend. But the days of just badgering one another, we can continue to do it, but ultimately our student body, our kids are going to lose out, and that's not what we're about here. A couple other things here. Holiday activities. Mr. Sabota was good enough to come in the middle school play. They're ready to go. Those kids, rightfully so, should be really pumped to really get out there and show us what they can do. Our middle school and high school winter concerts will be the first week in December. Hope that you get out and get to enjoy those concerts. Our kids are really working hard. Beyond the football, there's a lot of great things that are happening in this school district. Lastly for me, Mr. Murray and Mr. Coons, their last board meeting will be next month, and present a service award for their years of service to the South Range Board. And obviously, Mrs. Lowley and Mr. Christian will not be here next month, is my understanding. So welcome to both of you. And these are two good individuals that have done good things for this board and for this school system. So they will be sorely missed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next month. Once again, please take a look at our website, Facebook, and calendar events for updates. If there's concerns, questions, my door's open. You know that. Call me. We can sit and talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knowles. Okay, next up is non-agenda items, public participation. There were no requests received for the month of November. So now we come to the point of contention. You don't feel we need executive session?
Certainly up to the board. I can go in the direction with it.
Okay.
I guess my opinion is, I think Mr. Wentz probably said it best. Wouldn't be a bad idea to go into executive session, ask the two board member-elects to come in.
Okay. Okay, then.
John, I can make a couple of comments or so. Specifically to our two new board members. I believe Mr. Phillips did give you a packet of the performance audits, is that correct? I'd encourage you to not only study those, but all the performance audits are out there to be able to access through your computer out there on the state website. 80%, 75 to 80% of what we spend in pretty much probably any school district in the state of Ohio, or at least public school district, is in salaries and benefits. And, coming from business, when I first heard that, if any business was to spend that type of percentage in salaries and benefits, they would fail. They just could not stay afloat. But what we're producing here is slightly different than any type of business. We're obviously producing what we hope to be the leaders of either this community or other communities into the future. And so your biggest savings, obviously, is going to come by cutting people, because that's your biggest expense. As we watched Dean tonight talk about things that cut our lighting and things that we can do to kind of tighten up, supplies and some of those types of things, I'm not going to say that there's no savings in those types of things, because obviously there is. And through the course of time, I've watched us cut our paper budget and all the stuff that we use, cut back on that. But ultimately, if we're going to save a lot of money in this district or any other district, we're going to have to cut personnel. Part of what the community does when they elect the 5 members to a Board of Education is basically putting their trust in me, you, the people sitting up here to make those decisions. We can make this district look any way we want it, the community wants it to look like. So as we move into a new board on January 1, you are going to be able, our teacher contract is up at the end of this school year. We will be starting to negotiate with our unions and moving forward in that direction. You will both, as with the 3 existing members here, have an active part of that. Study what we have here. If you feel that what we have here is to need to cut some fat and cut some stuff off, bring those concerns to the rest of the board and the administration, and we can make those cuts. We did cut a music position, elementary music position. I remember sitting with Mrs. Lowley and the PTO discussing that. That was a very contentious subject at the time, and not one that I was supportive of, but it was something that we did to save money. And obviously we did that for 1 year, and there was quite an outcry from both parents and people in the community, and we brought that back, and rightfully so. But understand that we can make those decisions. We can shape what we want our district to look like. If we want to go from 3 languages to 2, or 3 languages to 1, or cut, the extras, because that's where you want to cut first. The other thing that I would say that we've added lots of and spent lots more money in my 20 years here is if you were to go back and look at what we spent on supplemental contracts. That number has skyrocketed tremendously. Why has that number skyrocketed tremendously? Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. We didn't used to have boys and girls soccer. A year ago, we watched our boys go to be state soccer champions. Well, we didn't, as a board, at that time Mr. Hall was the superintendent, we didn't just come up with the idea that we're going to add the soccer program. At that time, we had co-ed soccer. We started soccer, we hired coaches, and we had boys and girls. We went down that path for a couple of years, and all of a sudden there was an outcry from the community that says, man, we got enough girls to support a girls soccer team, we've got enough boys to support a boys soccer team, can't we have both? What did we do? We created 2 soccer teams out of 1. Now we added more head coaches, more supplementals. We can go on in that, and those are the things that has taken our district to make what it looks like today. So we can figure out, I can figure out the hard decisions to cut what programs, what we're going to slice, whether we're going to cut more aides in the offices, or all. We can do those types of things. We can cut our bus drivers, and we can do that. We can take things away if we want to. But as a board, that's our job to figure that out. And the community will either support that or we'll have an outcry against it. So as the two of you, I encourage both of you to kind of spend some time studying that kind of stuff. As you come on board in January, I would like to think that maybe we can sit down as a board and get some of those ideas together, and we'll see where we go from there. But obviously, we are not going to ever spend one penny more than what we have. The state does not allow that, correct, Mr. Phillips? We can't spend anything more than what we have. And if we can't figure out how to write the district before we get to that stage of the game, then the state will ultimately come in and figure that out for us. So with that, I just want to make a few comments and encourage both of you to, study and, and as we move forward and try to continue to move the district in the right direction. So thank you, John.
Ralph, I think soccer is one of the only sports that actually pays for itself, generates enough ticket revenue to pay for itself.
It may very well, Rich. I'm not here to argue or agree or disagree with that.
You single out soccer, but soccer actually is a success story.
Yeah.
Nothing pays for itself, including football, when you figure all the coaches' salaries and the...
Soccer, I think, does, Jim, if you do that.
I don't think so. I mean, if you really think that, at a varsity game, boys, you're lucky to see 50 people there. You're lucky to see 50 people at a varsity boys game. That 52 people attended the senior varsity boys soccer. 50 of the community. 50. That's both home and away. 52 people. That's senior night.
It's $7. That's about $350 times 10 games is $3,500. That's your coach's supplemental contract.
What about time that we spend on the field? You still don't pay for it. There's so many unforeseen things that there's no way that you pay for it.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with, I'll throw cross-country out. Cross-country doesn't generate any revenue,
These are the sort of things, let's get the real numbers, because the numbers I'm hearing getting thrown around, I know are correct. I don't know if they're off the top of my head, but I know that a 13% supplemental on a $34,000 base, you're going to be up around between $4,000 and $5,000. That's just for the head coach. Then you have assistants, and times two. That's something the board can do when they get seated, and we can look at all that, and let's look at facts. And I like Dennis. That was the best thing. Let's try to work together and look at the numbers, and if the numbers say cut it, then we'll cut it. If that's the best thing for kids, and that's what the board as a whole wants to do. I hate to see when I look around. I've been doing this for 27 years. Dennis has been doing a heck of a lot longer as a teacher and principal and administrator. But I can tell you what happens to communities when the board starts fighting, when you have a 3-2 board, and this stuff goes on every meeting. I've seen it happen. Well, I'm being filmed. I'm not gonna call out some of our neighbors, but it's not pretty, and ultimately the kids lose. We have to try to work together.
Okay, in that spirit, at this point in time, I'd like to ask for a motion to move into executive session for Ohio Revised Code 121.22 for the purpose of confidential discussion of employment of a public employee or official and to discuss the compensation of an employee. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
4 seconds. All in favor?
Aye. No, it's roll call.
We need a roll call.
John Coons,
Yes.
Dale Murray,
Yes.
Ralph Lentz,
Yes.
Amy White,
Yes.
Corey Yocum.
No, and I would like the minutes to state that just because I don't feel like we need one. I respect everybody's decision.
Okay, at this time, it's 8:35 PM, and this meeting is adjourned. Let's move into executive sessions. Students, you may now leave. Please sign the sign-in sheet. Anybody's welcome to stay until... Yeah, I can't just sit down. Christian,